I'm going to show you how to replace this carburetor. It's a 128 LD Husqvarna. This one's got several seasons on it. I've had this carburetor apart a few times and cleaned it, and it's just due for a freshening up and a tune-up to be ready for this next season. There is no reason you got to replace this carburetor. It can actually be just taken out and cleaned with your parts cleaner, brake cleaner. It's just got to be flushed out. You can replace the individual pieces like the bulb and some of the seals and stuff. But I've found that my time is worth versus what the carburetor kits cost. I got not genuine parts from Amazon, and they seem to be working fine. I've done it on several other small engines, and every time it seems to work out all right. But the whole carburetor and kit is cheaper than my time that I would have to invest into actually taking it apart and dismantling it and cleaning all the pieces and everything. So it's not necessary. It's just a quick, easy solution, and gets you back going again without putting a lot of extra effort and time into it. But to make it basically brand new, it's very inexpensive to do. So that's why I'm going to show you how to take it apart, get the old carburetor off, get the new one, new gasket, new fuel lines, new filter. It's just going to be all freshened up. We'll put a new spark plug in it and make sure that it's basically going to run again just top notch, like it's a brand new piece of equipment. All the gas is already out of this, so I don't have to dispose of or anything. What was still in it is not going to be a problem. So I'm going to start by taking the filter housing off. And there's two 8mm bolts or nuts on here that need to be unscrewed. To get this cover off. I'll just set those aside. Housing comes off. Now we're down to the carburetor itself, and it will just slide back. I'm going to go ahead and pull the fuel lines loose so they're not attached. I was able to push these down with my fingernail and just knock them off there. And your throttle cable. And in order to take the throttle cable off, you just need to loosen it up. It just stabs into this hole here and lays in there, so it's easy to just unhook. So the old carburetor, I'm not reusing any of this. I bought a kit that came with new fuel lines, came with a new spark plug, came with the carburetor itself, came with a new fuel filter and an extra primer, and it came with the gasket. I'm going to spend a little bit of time cleaning this up. I'll probably use some parts clean, like brake cleaner, parts cleaner, whatever available. And I just want to clean this surface up and make sure that I can clean out whatever might be lurking in there. I'm going to try not to get much liquid. Actually, don't want to spray any liquid into the engine itself and cause it to hydrolock or anything. But the tools you'll need so far, just an 8mm socket or wrench of some sort, and a T20 Torx for the rest of the screws that are on here if you're going any further than I am. I'm going to go ahead and get these fuel lines out. They were actually replaced fairly recently, but they got a little goofed and the filter itself wasn't replaced, so I want to go ahead and get a fresh filter in there. But I'll hopefully be able to show you how I'm going to get that in here, and that was kind of the pain in the butt here of it. But this stuff can just lay aside while you get this cleaned up, and I'll catch you here in a second. So I've sprayed a bit of parts cleaner, and got in here and do a lot of cleaning. Try to make sure that the surface that the seal is going to sit on is very clean. Actually, get all up in there as much as I can. I'm going to try and clean out the insides of the intake ports and get as much out, make it as new as possible. Mine ended up dropping down in here, so I ended up not having a good time getting it out. I ended up having to use some long nose pliers, a hook, and some foul language to get it out of there. But this is what came out, and the only thing I guess the kit didn't come with is just this little adapter. It was actually, show you where it was at, the gas tank edge was here, and this was just, the rest of it was down in here. So if you were just replacing the filter, you'd probably get it off there and get it back on. I'm not sure how you'd do it. It'd be very difficult without pulling the whole line out. But I'm ready to put the new line in. Kit came with two different sizes. There's one that's quite a bit thinner than the other. I want to use the one that is going to fit snug in the hole and not cause a new area for the gas tank to leak. There's one that, in this case, mine needs the bigger of the two. The smaller one does fit in there, but it's probably likely to leak the way it's sitting. So what I usually do is cut the end at an angle, because it's very hard to get it to get started in there. And I just cut a notch in the end of this hose, and I'm not sure if you're able to see it very well, but just enough that I've got something to get it started in the hole with. And once I can get it kind of wiggled in and forced in there, might be easier with some smaller hands, but just keep on twisting it and shoving it down, and it'll feed down in there. Might be able to just reach it with my finger here on this one. Maybe get it pulled up through here. Need more length. Pulling more and more through so I can get this guy out here where I can reach it. Then I'm going to cut it back again. I'm going to cut it straight and hopefully not cut a finger here. Razor blade or something might be a little easier to do it with instead of my dull pocket knife. So we've got the filter. If you want to reuse that adapter, you can. I don't find it necessary. It's not a check valve or anything. You can see through it and blow through it both directions. So it's just a connecting piece. So I'm going to do away with it. I'm going to leave enough slack to make sure that my filter is able to lay at the bottom. And then I'm going to trim this with plenty of slack here at first, just to make room for when I go to the carburetor, but I got a second one I got to put on. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one, where I'm going to cut a little bit of a notch, kind of a sideways notch in it. Make it easier to fit down in the hole and get started. On this one. So I did the same thing again. I just cut a little bit of an angle shape on it, just enough to help get it started in that hole. So we'll have one for the filter side, and then we'll have one for the return side. Same thing again. Just keep on shoving down and spinning, and it'll slide in eventually. It's going down in there. Try and just get enough through to get enough slack on it that I can get to it. But I'm actually just going to trim that one where it's at, because I don't need to pull it all the way back through. Since the return just needs to make it back in there. It doesn't have to actually do anything. It's for your bulb when you pump it. Fuel has someplace to go. So now that I have these two lines in their place, now I actually didn't put these in the right order. Your filter side should go on the back, and this one should be your return for the layout of your carburetor. But it's pretty easy to just put them where they belong. So in this case, I'm going to just loop it over and shove it on there. It won't make any difference. And I'm going to do that once I've actually got the carburetor set on here. That way I can trim it to the right length and not have any kinks in the hose. But I'm ready to put this guy back together now that I got these in place how they belong. There we go. If I could be smart enough to shape a square peg round hole. The gasket only goes on one way, so there we go. Got that guy back on there, and this has the notch for that circle shape to fit in, so it just shoves on there. The new carburetor is going to go bulb towards the pull handle, and this would be an easier opportunity to go ahead and put the fuel lines on, so I'm going to do that. I'll go ahead and take some of the length off of these. Just don't want to leave too much on there where they'll have to kink to hold straight. Alright, so paying attention to my filter side, I actually put the filter in the wrong hole. The filter side is going to go on the carburetor side. The return is going to come out to the back side of this bulb here. These don't have any clamps on them or anything. They just seal on there by sitting snug. The carburetor gets pushed all the way on. Then didn't reconnect my throttle cable there. Just make sure everything's got room to work and isn't going to cause any problems. filter housing back on. Got your two 8mm nuts that go back on there. And these can go ahead and be snugged back in. It's the only thing that holds the carburetor in there. Get them both started before I snug them all the way down. They don't have to be very tight either. This is pretty small, flimsy metal, so don't try to bear down on it. I don't know what the torque specs are off the top of my head, but you know, just snug and holding flat enough that it seals up good and there's no air leaking out and they're not going to rattle off. So I'll put a little snug on both of them. And then I'm ready to put the filter and filter housing back on, or the filter cover. And this guy, just fold them in there and shove it down in there. You ready to put some gas in it and get it primed up, and once you got some gas in it, and you can go ahead and try and give it a start. You'll have to figure out if it needs any fueling adjustment. The fuel adjustment screw is just in the top of this hole here, and it takes a regular, looks like a Phillips head or a flathead, that make any difference, just a screwdriver. You may try, if it doesn't want to start, giving it a quarter turn one way or the other and see if it wants to start. If you're still having trouble, you may just have to find the sweet spot to get it happy. And once you get it started up and revving on it, you'll be able to tell if it's got the power it needs, and you make some minor adjustments with that screw. The last one of these I did, I had a lot of luck. It fired right up and it was basically tuned in close enough that I didn't care to modify it any. But that's the carburetor side of it being swapped out. In this case, the kit also came with a spark plug, and this was looks like it's got the case on it, so typically that tells me that it was a pre-gapped plug. I don't know the plug gap on this yet, so I'll need to look that up. Swap out the spark plug. I'll start by just pulling the boot off of here. Went and got my socket. Takes a 3/4 inch. I've got a actual spark plug socket. Doesn't have to be. Just got to be a deep well or whatever you can get to work on there. This old spark plug's coming out. It was probably about 3 seasons old, so this one was due to be replaced regardless. I'll throw that one away. We got a fresh, brand new guy to go in with. I'll put it. This one already has a gasket too. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on in. Just snug. You don't need to break it off in there. Just enough to give them seal. Put this cap back on. The boot for the plug wire. And it looks like I'm basically ready to go out and test it out now.